Well, hello and welcome to episode 57 of the Your Next Chapter podcast. This is Angela Raspis. Now, today you're being treated to a beautiful blend in this wholehearted conversation. I'm speaking with Kristen Iuppenlatz from California, and she is giving us this tremendous insight into her journey. On one hand, we've got the experience of moving from being a Pilates teacher in a traditional studio to actually becoming an online entrepreneur. But on the other hand, we've also got the story of why it was that Kristen actually got into Pilates in the first place. That personal journey of looking to overcome chronic pain that she was experiencing from a car accident when she was a lot younger. So this is one of these scenarios which I get really excited about because this is what next chapters are so often about. We find the thing that helps us, and then we're inspired to use that thing to help others. So it is that gorgeous blend, and I hope you take a lot of inspiration from it. But some of the things that we're talking about, in particular, when you're looking at what I call, I guess, the art of Pilates, I asked Kristen, what's the difference between yoga and Pilates? Because I always get a little bit confused. And talking about, at the end of the day, Kristen sees herself as someone who wants to help you feel good, to be enjoying being in your own body. And the importance of having this functionality and this ease of movement in our bodies so that when we get older and wiser, no doubt, we can still do so many of the things that we want to do. You know, our mobility is so darn important. Our health is so darn important. And so we look at actually Pilates itself, and she has the most beautiful gift for you. If you go to angelaraspis.com/57, that's 57, download, you'll get access to a Pilates at your desk training session. Now, if you're anything like me, you're often sitting at a desk, crouched over a computer for longer than you should be. And Kristen takes us through these fabulous exercises to get you back into your body and take care of that body. So a fantastic training video, and it's totally free for you, thanks to Kristen. So again, that's angelaraspis.com/57 download. And now from there, we're really looking then at how Kristen embraced her business and really how she needed to move from the offline, bricks and mortar, I've actually got a studio type scenario into, well, I've discovered the online world and I can take my message and impact a lot more people who can't actually physically come to me in California. I mean, heck, I'm in Australia, but I'm still benefiting from Kristen's expertise now because of this new direction she's gone in. But look, along the way, she's very honest about some of those challenges that she faced, in particular the tech challenges, those things when you're pulling your hair out because you can't make this piece of software talk to that piece of software and do the things they're supposed to do. Well, you're not alone if you've experienced that. We also talked about, her self-belief, of owning her value, of really recognizing the fact that she's a master teacher, 18 years of experience, and that taking that experience out there into the world can make such a difference to others. But we often downplay our strongest attributes, and it's really important that we don't. And we also explored the idea of how Kristen, in her own words, used a whole chunk of change to hire one of the, inverted commas, gurus to help her put together her funnels, and her expectations that were so high on how everything was going to work, and it didn't. And what she did instead, how she moved past that experience and is still now more slowly, more organically, but with a lot more enjoyment and fulfillment, growing her online business. So all the details are in the show notes as to how you can find Kristen online, and I know that you're going to want to after listening to this conversation. So let's leap in, shall we, and find out what it's like to take a brick and mortar business online. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Inspiration, clarity, confidence, and wholehearted business strategy. Welcome to Your Next Chapter, the podcast especially for women in their 40s and beyond who know that business and personal development go hand in hand. Tune in each week for marketing, mindset, and personal growth strategies, along with inspiring stories from women around the world who are creating new businesses and lives that are personally fulfilling and financially rewarding. If you're looking to create a business and life you love, you're in great company. Let's find out what will unfold in your next chapter. I'm your host, Angela Raspis, and I'm so delighted that you're here.
Let's see. My next chapter began, I think, when I realized that owning a brick and mortar Pilates studio was not going to get me where I wanted to go financially. I think it's where it first started. But also it was that I wanted to reach a bigger audience. I only had a certain number of hours in the day to see students, and I knew how powerful the work that I was doing was in terms of transforming people's lives. And I wanted people who didn't have access to my studio and who didn't have the finances to do private sessions with a master teacher to be able to get the information that I was sharing with my students and feel better. I was seeing such amazing things with my students that I wanted to share it on a bigger level. And the journey that I went through, going from chronic pain to feeling better than ever in my mid-50s, was something that I wanted to talk about with other women my age. And luckily, the internet allows us to do just that. So the first thing I did was take Marie Forleo's B-School, which really opened up a whole new world for me. And to be honest, I had a lot of learning to do. So I did courses and, I was kind of a course junkie there for a while. And what I really realized in watching people who'd gone through B-School with me, which is an online business school, if you don't know what that is, I started watching the people who were thriving, who were growing, who were making a big impact on the world. So rather than, I think more than watching and going through the courses that I probably purchased and put, in a folder somewhere, is I started watching what people were doing, and I started paying attention to the people that I really loved watching, their videos and their posts and their courses and stuff, and I started watching what they were doing, and that was very inspiring to me. So that's kind of how I switched from owning a Pilates studio to moving into the online world and playing with social media and building courses and opt-ins and free videos and all of that stuff. And that was I think about 4 years ago.
That sounds so familiar to me. We both did B-School. Yeah. I did B-School back in 2012, and it was one of those points where it started to really open what was possible to me. I'd had my own, much like you, a brick and mortar business for quite a while. I had a marketing agency in Chatswood, which is in Sydney, and I had full-time staff. I built that up from working at home on my little dining room table, and eventually bought an office. Wow. Staff and thought, well, there you go. I've, inverted commas, made it. This is what business is. It's you have an office and you get clients and you have staff and off you go. And although I dabbled, we worked in the online world. We built websites. We did social media was, beginning back then. I started my business in 2003. So social media was becoming a thing, and I understood, and we used search engine optimization, did Google AdWords, etc.
That's great.
When I did B-School, and there was this, but you can actually share your knowledge purely online in that essence of, as you said, the videos, the training courses, etc. So you can actually get your message out to a larger audience. And it was like, oh, duh, why had I never thought of it like that? It was a bit of a light bulb moment. But it certainly changes a lot of things, doesn't it, when you realize
Absolutely.
There's a whole new way of doing business.
Yeah, when I first realized that there was this whole new world, I was very reluctant to share anything on social media. That felt very strange to me. I wasn't doing any of that. And at first, I was kind of a lurker. I was just watching what other people were doing in it. And partly I didn't feel confident in my writing skills. It felt so vulnerable to, write on somebody's post or something. I don't know why, now thinking back, why I was so afraid of that. But I guess I thought people were going to laugh at me and go, who are you? I don't really know you in real life. So the building online relationships took me quite a while, actually, because it was so strange to me, so unfamiliar. But actually, the way that I got over that is I started following a couple of bloggers who I just thought were amazing and funny, and I really just had to, at a certain point, tell them how much I liked their work. And then the first time one of them mentioned me, it was like, Marianne in Romper Room looking through the magic mirror. Do you remember her?
Oh, yes,
Like
I
somebody was
do.
looking through the internet and seeing me. And that was kind of alarming at first. I was like, oh, they see me. They noticed me. And then it got a little, what I realized is how powerful that was. So powerful for me to find somebody online that I thought was super cool and talented and doing the kind of thing that I wanted to do. And they mentioned me. So that made such a big impact on me that I started kind of taking that into my social media, you know, strategy. Basically, recognizing how powerful it was to have real relationships with people and mention people online and just kind of look through the magic mirror and notice people out there in an online world. And I've created some really cool friendships over the years, which I never thought I would.
That was a big step, that understanding, that recognition. First of all, you were aware that there was that feeling of vulnerability that you needed to work through. But I love the way you didn't try and, battle yourself and go, get on with this and what are you doing and you're pathetic and, get out there and be brave and all that rather, nasty talk we can give to ourselves. Maybe there was a little bit of that going on, but maybe there was a smidge in there. But then what you did is that you started, from what I'm hearing, is that you started to recognize there were people in the online world, like there is in the real world, who resonated with you, you resonated with them, and so you started to follow them. You loved their message, they connected with you, and that's really the way it works, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's you
and
being
recognizing
you.
that they're real people. And the people that I most resonate with are the people who show me that they're real people. They're not all super glossy, but they tell stories about their life and they share their foibles and funny stories. And I want to be their friends. I think they're cool. So I feel like I'm now friends with a few of them. I'm real friends with them, and that is that's really enriching. That has opened my world up so much.
I think that what you just said there is the piece that really appeals to me, and I've experienced as well, is that the ability of the online world to open your world. I mean, and for me it did. It started with B School, and I have what I call belief buddies. So belief buddies are people that hold your vision in their heart and in their hands just as much as you do. So these are business belief buddies, and it's a lovely way of viewing the world, methinks. And some of the girls, and there's half a dozen of them, which I consider belief buddies, I met online. I had one of the funniest experiences. So people with teenage children, which I think is a lot of us women in next chapters, will relate to this. I met one of my business belief buddies. She's in Tasmania, which is down a little island at the bottom of Australia. And we'd only ever spoken, first of all, on Facebook, and then we talked a bit and Skyped each other, and then we came to the conclusion that we should meet. And in particular, she flew up to Sydney so I could help her with a business day, with actually helping her put her business together. And I was going to pick her up from the airport with my kids, and my son was sitting beside me and said, "So let me get this right, Mum. You started chatting to her online, you never actually met her, and now you've invited her to come and stay. Is this behaviour that I should emulate?" And it was one of those, do as I say, not as I do, son. But that's how it started, and that's that expansion of, I'm connected as well, you and I, for example, we connected through a mastermind that we're both in. And you're in California, I'm in Sydney, and it's as though we're just in the next room with each other. It really has just given me so many more opportunities that I never saw when the internet, first started out there.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that's been really helpful for me is I went to Jonathan Field's Good Life project, Camp Good Life Project.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that I had been watching online are there in the flesh. And so that to me was really powerful because it's wonderful to connect with people online, but I really like to be in the same room with people. Yeah. So getting to go once a year and dance and hug and play with people that I talk to online during the year really made it feel real and give me a lot of confidence and an amazing support system. These people are just amazing, positive cheerleaders out in the world.
Yeah.
And that's really important. I mean, we can talk backwards and forwards about how great it is to expand our networks online, but much like you, the face-to-face connection will never, ever go away for me.
Yeah.
I do have an online course, but I called Aligned, which is really helpful for women in their first probably 12 months to 2 years of business. But what I did with that is I run live calls. I can't do everything just online. I need that interaction. It's why I run masterminds, and it's why I take my mastermind girls away on retreat. So we actually all get together, go and hire a house for 2 or 3 days and do business planning. And that face-to-face connection is it's vital for me. It's what brings me alive. It's really, really important. But most of those connections started online. So that's where that spark can begin.
Yeah.
Well, let's circle back and talk about now. Obviously, you have a passion for helping women feel good, to be able to move, to feel comfortable and strong in their bodies, which is why Pilates is such a big part of your life. But let's talk about when you made that decision to move from just the studio, because you realized there was many, many, many more people who could benefit from what you teach, and you decided to go down the online routes. Talk to us about what your experiences were there, because a lot of people who are moving into next chapters, they have a skill set, they have experience, and whether it's taking that online or not, it's that confidence to do so, to say, hey, what I've got has value. What I've got could be really helpful to other people. And sometimes, I've seen it often, the confidence piece, the self-belief piece is the first step before you then get yourself online. So could you talk to that for a while, how the experience overall was for you?
Well, I've been a Pilates teacher for 18 years, so that helps with the confidence thing, because in the beginning, I wasn't confident enough to call myself a master teacher and offer classes online. I wouldn't have felt comfortable with that. But after 18 years of working in the studio with people and seeing their progress and watching the work that I was helping them with transform their lives, that gives you some confidence. And the system, the Pilates method, is a system that just works. So I feel ultimately confident that the system that I understand and teach works well for almost everybody. And not only that, it worked for me. I came to Pilates with chronic pain after 2 car accidents. I had whiplash, and then tracing back through old injuries, I recognized that a bike accident when I was 12 and a knee injury when I was in college had set up this pattern in my body that was being addressed by Pilates movement, but in my exploration, I found that my specific skills of looking at people's patterns and taking that into everyday life, not just the hour that you're lying on the Pilates equipment, but when you're standing at the sink doing the dishes or walking your dog or sitting in your car, all the moments in your life can move you to a better pattern rather than continue to build on a poor pattern that might be hurting you, that might be giving you chronic pain.
Kristen, sorry to interrupt you, Donna, but can I ask, when you say patterns, just break that down for me. Do you mean particular ways of moving, habitual ways of moving?
Yes, habitual ways of moving. So for me, I had a bike accident when I was 12. I fell off a bike that I was riding a bike barefoot in the mountains, and it turned out that it was a rusty old bike with no brakes, which I didn't know until I started coming down the hill from the store. So I had to do kind of a skidding stop into the gravel, and I sliced open my foot. There's still a big scar on it. But at the time, we had just moved up to the mountains. I don't think we had any insurance, and we just rinsed it out, and I never thought about it again for 40 years. But what happened is it kept me from building a whole group of muscles in my left leg, and so in college I was dancing and my knee just popped out of joint because I didn't have strength in my inner leg because I hadn't pushed into my big toe for 20 years. And then again, I didn't have any insurance. I didn't think about that knee injury again. Nobody told me to strengthen certain muscles. And it wasn't until 40 years, almost 40 years after my bike accident that I realized that toe was completely immobilized. That left big toe was completely like a piece of wood. So it changed the way I stood, the way I walked, the way I held myself, and the way I built muscle up through my left leg, which then affected my hips and my rib cage, and ultimately my neck on the right side opposite my left foot, which is where I had all my pain.
Because the knee bone's connected to the hip bone,
exactly.
And the hip bone's connected to
exactly. Yeah, and then I started looking at patterning in the Pilates studio, and recognized it in the Pilates studio and started working on things, but I never really transferred it to the way I walked out of the Pilates studio and how I moved around my house. And so I had chronic pain from my car accidents, and I was told by the doctor that I would always have that injury and I would probably always have pain. So I just accepted that, and I thought that after a hard Pilates workout, my neck always hurt, and I just thought that was what I was going to have to live with because I'd done the best that I could, and I was injured, and I was just going to always have that pain to deal with. But what happened is when I shifted my posture, the way that I held my body, the pain went away. So I started exploring more and more ways that I could pull the exercises I was doing in the Pilates studio into everything I did throughout the day. The first big aha moment was how I stood at the kitchen sink because I was having terrible pain, like a knife stab behind my right shoulder blade every time I was at the kitchen sink. And what I realized is that I was letting my hips drop forward and press into the sink, and I was rounding my upper back and kind of compressing my spine. So when I pulled my hips away from the sink, lifted up and engaged my deep muscles, the pain in my shoulders went away.
As if by magic. Yeah, it's funny as you were describing that, I'm like sitting up and I'm
right.
my hips back and lifting up my shoulders. So can I just extend you there? No pun intended. All of us sitting at our desks working each and every day, as so many of us women do in our next chapter businesses, we're often crouched over a computer. What is a basic movement that we could make, or a basic posture change that we could make that would enhance our bodies overall, considering we're in those positions for so long each day? Can you describe something there? I'm going to try it as you describe it.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the problems with sitting so long is that you're not moving. Your pelvis is not moving. So it's really great if you can get some movement, and which is wonderful. There have been a lot more standing desks and people standing on balanced surfaces and stuff to get a little bit of movement. But even if you don't have that, if you can do some like deep tilting in your pelvis so that you're sitting up tall on your pelvis, on your sit bones, the bones of your pelvis that hit the chair, and then you just kind of if you imagine your pelvis is a bowl of water, just pour a little bit of water behind the bowl so that you're tilting your pelvis back, and then pour a little bit of water off the front of the bowl so you're kind of tilting your pelvis forward. So in a Pilates class, we would call that pelvic tilting. We would lie on the ground and use our deep abdominals to tilt the pelvis. But you can do it seated too. You could do it sitting up on top of a ball. So in a fitness class, you might do it sitting up on top of a ball, but you can do it anywhere. Just drawing the belly button in and up to tilt behind the sit bones, and then stacking the spine up so you're right on top of your sit bones, and then sending your tail behind you and letting your sit bones widen. So you do a little bit of an extension through your low back, and then coming right back up on top. So that's just a real simple little pelvic tilt in a seated position that's going to keep things from getting all clenched and sticky in your pelvis, which is what happens when you spend hours sitting in the same position in this 90-degree angle, which isn't really very good for our bodies at all. I don't know if you've seen a lot of articles that say sitting is the new smoking. It's really very bad for our bodies. So 90-degree angles for our hips and knees and ankles is not ideal.
Yeah, and I know that I can get on a roll and get so absorbed in what I'm doing, I can find that I'm actually in the same position for literally 2 or 3 hours, and then wonder why the heck my back is hurting so much.
Exactly. Well, and incorporating moments of movement so that every time you finish whatever you're doing, if you're writing emails, every time you finish an email, you take a good big breath side to side, lift your spine up, lift your sternum up, look around the room, just change your perspective. Maybe notice if your legs have fallen to one side or you're sitting in, we all sit in strange patterns. I used to sit on that left leg that wasn't very strong. I just tucked it underneath me. And it was kind of like a broken wing that I always would just tuck underneath me. So it didn't ever build any strength. Now I anchor it to the ground and I kind of push into the leg and keep it from just kind of flopping to the side. I created one of my courses called Pilates for Your Life, and I've got Pilates classes, Pilates videos, 30-minute Pilates classes in different environments. So I have one that's called Pilates at Your Desk, and it leads you through a variety of kind of mini exercises, breathing and pelvic tilting and ways to engage your deep abdominals and stretch your shoulders and all of that kind of stuff. And I have one for the car and for the garden and the kitchen and the stairs. So little bite-sized Pilates exercises in different environments.
Now, this might be one of the most basic questions in the history of mankind, but I'm not afraid to ask it. What's the basic difference, the big difference between Pilates and yoga?
Well, a lot of the movements might seem similar. Some of if you saw a picture of somebody doing yoga and somebody doing Pilates, it might look similar. To me, the big difference is that yoga is more about holding a pose, and Pilates is more about moving through different poses. You don't stay still in Pilates much, so that you're moving from one pose to the next in a fluid movement using breath to facilitate movement. And in yoga, you're holding that one position. So that's kind of the most basic difference. And also Pilates uses spring resistance equipment to give assistance and build muscle through resistance of the springs.
Okay, well, thank you for that description, because I have wondered. Neither of them, Pilates or yoga, are things that are regularly in my life. I may have, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, I may have dabbled, like been at the gym and someone says, come and join a Pilates class, or come along to yoga, and I've enjoyed them, but I haven't made a commitment to bringing one or t'other into my life. So if we can imagine, like, my next major birthday is 50, what would I see as the benefits of how will my life change if I incorporate these practices into my daily routine? Because it sounds as though, something that sounds very appealing to me sounds like there's a little snippets of time that I could weave into my day, rather than, okay, I've got to take an hour and a half out to drive to the gym and go to the gym and then, come home and shower and wash my hair and put the makeup back on and all of that stuff. So the snippets are very appealing to someone like myself who's pretty busy.
Well, I always encourage people to do individual work if they can with a really qualified instructor, because you'll get to understand the movements specifically for your body and any kind of old injuries or patterning. So it's really, really valuable if you can do that. Not necessarily long-term working one-on-one, although that's really great if you can, but it's quite expensive, obviously, to work one-on-one with a practitioner. But then once you've done that, then you can move into classes and you really understand how to work deeply with your own body. Joseph Pilates was actually a man who developed the work over 100 years ago. It's actually an interesting story. He was a German national in England during World War I, and he was put into an internment camp. And he developed this 36 mat exercises just to keep fit, and he taught it to all of the internees at the camp, and they all stayed very fit as an influenza epidemic swept through the internment camps. So he got some attention there as all of the internees stayed fit during that time. But then what happened is so many people were deconditioned and unable to do the mat exercises that he started developing the spring resistance equipment. So the story goes that he took springs off hospital beds and affixed them to the bed. So the first piece of equipment was kind of like a metal framed cot or bed with springs on it, and then you put your hands in the springs and your feet in the springs and do a series of exercises using the springs as resistance to assist you if you were deconditioned or injured, and also to build muscle tone. So that's where the equipment comes in. I am a huge believer in the spring equipment. It's really fun. And sometimes the mat work itself is actually the most difficult because it's just you and your own body weight. It's quite difficult. So having the equipment to give you feedback where you lie your body on a carriage and the carriage moves as you pull the springs, it's actually super fun to me. It's kind of like dancing with equipment.
I like the sound of it.
And then it's meant to inform the way you move in the world. That was Joseph Pilates' intention, and he actually created some of the first home exercise equipment. He made a Wunda chair, which looked like a nice little leather chair for your house, and you tipped it over and hooked on the springs, and you had a piece of exercise equipment there. So he's got some videos from the 30s, black and white videos from the 30s with him showing off his little exercise chair in his house. So his idea was that everybody would be working out in little bursts and moments in their homes, staying fit all the time.
Now that's I mean that concept of incorporating it into your everyday, that's what you're specializing in. Is that the right description?
I would say yes. What I call myself is a walking specialist and a functional movement specialist. So, and Pilates is the tool that I use to help people move better and walk better. So I really love to take it into walking because that's the thing we all do. Even if you're not feeling well and you're sitting on the couch, you're going to get up and walk to the bathroom. So everybody walks, even if it's not a lot. And many people, especially as we age, that's something that a lot of us do for fitness. It's easy to just take a nice walk at lunch or after work. And if you're doing it with intention and firing the right muscles, you're actually building muscle tone and improving your posture and your patterns. And that's going to keep you stronger, more flexible, and able to participate in the world as you age. I think many of us, as we get into our 40s and 50s, start to focus more on business and things and not have as much time to do sports and the things that we might have done in our youth. And keeping that kind of active lifestyle is super important, and Pilates kind of helps you continue to do those kinds of things and not feel like you have to sit on the sidelines as you age. For myself, in my mid-50s now, I feel like I can do more than seriously, I feel better than I did 20 years ago, and I feel much more able to take on a new activity. Somebody invited me to go kayaking down in the San Francisco Bay the other day, and I haven't kayaked for years, and I certainly never was like, a long-term kayaker or anything, but I know because I do Pilates, I'm able to say absolutely, jump in the kayak and apply what I know about the way that I move to kayaking. And I felt great the next day. It was hard work. And I felt great the next day. I felt like I'd worked, but I wasn't worried that I was, 20 years ago, I would have thrown my neck out for sure. That would have killed me. But even though I'm older, I feel really confident about how my body can perform. Doing skiing, I'm a better skier now. I can just kind of jump into anything new, and I know my limits, but I feel more confident about taking on new activities and staying young, frankly.
That part there is hugely appealing, and what I'm thinking as you're speaking is one of the beautiful things about moving into this next chapter of life is that I think we start to let go of other people's opinions of us, and we start to let go of, well, my body has to look and be a
Right.
certain way because society says this is how it has to look, and it's a very different expectation. Now I'm starting to relax more into the fact that I am never going to be taller than 5'3.5". God knows I've tried, but it's just not going to happen. Right, I'm never going to change my body shape.
Right.
Ultimately, I mean, I am a curvy person. There could be less of me, yes, but my basic body type is quite muscular and curvy. That's, I think it's a mesomorph, I think, of the different body types there are.
Yep.
I cannot change that. But that's okay. What I can do is start to make choices and start to engage in activities because I value looking after my body, wanting it to, because my goodness, we're going to live for a while.
That's true.
Life is going to continue, and I can see, excuse me, I just got back from New Zealand. I was visiting my family there, and I can see the different levels of activity and how that has played out and how my parents are. My dad is a shearer and a fencer. He has been his whole life. Well, he's not now. He's 76 and a little unwell, but his body is so fit, so wiry. He's 76 and he's got abs, for goodness sake. So because he has worked out his entire life, and that movement you're talking about, the everyday movement that is just incorporated into his world, means that he has the fitness and the flexibility still at this advanced, inverted commas, age compared to other members of my family. So I think this is a bit of a mindset shift that we can embrace, isn't it? That
I think so.
We take care of our bodies for us and for longevity so that we can damn well go kayaking if somebody invites us.
Right. Yes. And I think another thing, bringing it back to the internet, now we see videos of people in their 90s doing extraordinary things that younger people would do, and recognizing that dancers and there's a 90-something-year-old gymnast who does the uneven parallel bars and stuff. She's extraordinary.
I think I've seen that. I've seen that. She blows your mind.
Exactly. And there's lots of people, I've seen some videos where people say, I didn't start whatever it is, ice skating, until I turned 55, or I didn't start fencing or whatever it is until I was in my 60s. And, there's a 100-year-old yoga teacher. So we can see that we don't really have to have those limitations on our bodies that we some of us thought we were going to have to sit down and get old, but you don't.
No, that's the wonderful thing. So all these next chapters which are being opened in so many areas. So I can understand from the way that you talk and the passion that's there and the real desire to be able to let more people know about how things can be by becoming aware of those patterns and starting to make simple changes. So we'll definitely put links through to your site so people can go and explore those courses that you talk about. But let's come back around circle. As I said at the beginning, our conversation will always roam in all different areas. That's the way these things happen. But let's come back for a moment into that business realm, because I know we were having a wee chat before we hit record about your experiences of the way you thought you should grow your business and the way that it's actually growing. And there was a significant contrast between those two. And I'd love you to share that, because I think it's very important for women to hear this.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I did B school, and I watched a lot of people kind of take off, and I was watching their business models and trying to figure out how I would follow in their footsteps. And one of the things that I feel like is my kind of my challenge is the technological stuff. It's a big challenge for me. So I thought I would hire people. So I saved up my money, and I put together my course. I'm comfortable on video, so I was able to put together the videos, but then I hired somebody. I hired a VA to put it all together, which that was actually really smart. And I hired a copywriter to write my sales page, and I started following kind of a marketing guru, very, very persuasive person, and I gave her a big chunk of change to have her program and consultations with her, and to get templates for how to send out emails to build a sales funnel kind of thing. So I worked very hard, sat at my computer every night and pushed myself to create these emails and to get it all together. And I did not enjoy it at all. I felt, I didn't feel confident, but I felt like I must push through and get this accomplished. I felt kind of like I was pushing a boulder up a hill, and I believed that if I got to the hill, up top of the hill, then the boulder would start to roll down and everything would be great again. So I continued to push the boulder up the hill, and at the top of the hill, there wasn't a nice smooth rolling of the boulder. It just kind of clunked there, and not much happened at all. I think I maybe sold 2 of my courses. And you're seeing all these people talk about how they immediately sold thousands of their courses, and it almost feels as if people are guaranteeing it, with all their marketing. So you start to believe that that's going to happen for you too, if you follow their example, if you follow their templates, if you do what they say. So I was terribly disappointed and kind of, frankly, embarrassed. I felt like, oh, how embarrassing. I did all this and I didn't have that same kind of result. So I took a step back and I just said, well, clearly that is not the way I am meant to have a business. So what I did then is I started thinking about, what do I love to do? Obviously, I don't love sitting at a computer creating technology stuff, grappling with technology, which baffles me. So what I love to do is goof around, dance and play. So I started doing videos of me dancing in the kitchen. And that has been the one thing that has gotten me the most attention. I get thousands of views of my silly kitchen dancing videos. And people will mention that they love my videos. Even people who I would never have thought would be online and seeing them, just like in town, or members of my family will say, oh, your dancing in the kitchen videos are so inspiring. They didn't say that they watched it. They didn't make a comment or like it, but people are seeing it. And I am getting feedback from a lot of them that it's inspiring them to get up and move in little ways and enjoy being in their bodies. So it hasn't really translated into a lot of money yet, but people in my industry, the Pilates industry, now recognize my name, know who I am, and through the kitchen videos, the dancing in the kitchen videos, they've connected the fact that I teach Pilates for your life. So basically it's one step from doing Pilates in your kitchen is just moving and enjoying your body. Because that is what I do. I dance around my kitchen. So I just thought I would turn the camera on myself, and now I'm really trying to focus on what I love to do, and that's the thing that resonates with my audience most.
And isn't it funny, when we were first talking, one of the things that you said was at the beginning of this conversation was that you started to follow the people who really resonated with you.
Exactly.
You really liked their stuff. You felt good about it. And come full circle, that's exactly what you're doing. And I so believe in this. A couple of things that you've said there which I'd like to highlight. And I love your overall expression, which is what this is all about, is enjoying being in your body. At the end of the day, that's what you're in the business of, is helping us women enjoy being in our bodies so we can move in better ways and extend our lives, and that flexibility within it. But number one is that you said you realized that those formulas that you were given didn't necessarily have a guarantee. And I think we can sometimes put all our hope in that sort of basket. If I just follow the bouncing ball, it'll all come together for me. Now, it just doesn't work like that, because you're you. So you can take aspects of it, but you've got to personalize it and turn it into the Kristen way. And when you did turn that video on and start boogieing around your kitchen for everyone to see, people realized that you were real. And that's what you said before, that those people who were real, who I felt like I wanted to know. And that to me is the gist of it, is that recognition that we don't have to be all things to all people. We don't have to act in a certain way so that our business succeeds. We have to be us. And then the people who resonate with that will come to us. But there's the second point that you made, is that it hasn't had a huge impact yet on your bottom line, but you're building visibility, you're building an audience, you're building trust, and that will turn into, if you then invite people to step forward and work with you or purchase your course, it will turn into business. But it takes time, doesn't it?
Exactly. And what's happening now is I still have my brick and mortar Pilates studio, and it takes a damn lot of time to actually be working one-on-one with Pilates students. So I just have to kind of let it be what it is. I can't do everything, and I have 2 kids and a husband, and and I've really just decided that I really want to enjoy my life, and I'm just going to let it build as it goes, and hopefully things are shifting at my Pilates studio, so I'm going to have a lot more time to focus on the online stuff, and then I'll have created this community of people who recognize me and that I have real relationships with online and even in person, and then things will take off in a more natural way. So I'm just allowing it to be a little bit more organic and trusting that it'll happen.
And it feels like if I'm reading your oops, guess what? One of my bits of soundproofing just fell off the wall.
Oh no, not again.
This is live. This is action. but listening to you, it feels like a real lilt in your voice. Like you're really enjoying what you're doing at the moment. And I feel that would have contrasted enormously to when you were sitting there trying to push all these emails together and follow that formula. And you feel a lot freer.
Absolutely. And if it takes a little bit longer, on the journey, I'm enjoying myself, and I'm trusting that things will happen in the time they're supposed to happen in.
Amen to that. I feel the same way. Well, I think that's a beautiful place for us to start to draw this conversation to an end on this occasion, because we've just covered so many topics, and I really appreciate how you led us into not just what's been happening with your business, but also these reasons behind why you do what you do, because that why is so important, and that feeling and that understanding that you've got a contribution to make, whether that be massive, tiny, somewhere in between. It's that feeling of fulfillment and contribution, which to me really epitomizes what a next chapter is all about.
Yeah.
So if you were thinking of the women who are listening to us today and who are perhaps standing on that edge of the next chapter and thinking, shall I, shan't I, what's going to happen? What would you say to them, thinking about your own experiences?
Well, I think that we all have so much wisdom that we've gathered from our experiences that sometimes we don't realize how much sharing that information could impact somebody else. Like for me, I've been paying a lot of attention on how to feel joyful in my body, but like I said, the technology is a huge challenge for me. And there are people out there who have certain skills that I don't have at all. And they take it for granted that they know how to do those things. And maybe they think everybody knows how to do those things, but I might be able to really benefit from someone else's skills that they kind of take for granted. And everybody's got their own special way to deliver information or a message. And like we've been talking about, your personality, that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking for somebody to, as a coach or somebody to help me with the technological part of my business. I really want somebody who's a real person that has a history and that wisdom from being a little bit older. I don't want to hire a 20-year-old. I want to hire somebody who's had an adventurous, exciting life and learned things along the way that they can share with me. So I think we should never underestimate the power of the information that we've gained throughout our lifetime. And you just don't know who's going to go, wow, that's exactly what I need. What you know is exactly what I need.
Absolutely. I so agree with that. And so all we need to do is take a deep breath, find a business bestie, find a belief buddy who can actually...
Love that.
Yeah, when you get wobbly, I mean, that's the beautiful thing. When you get wobbly is that you can reach out to this person and go, okay, I'm doing this, but I'm freaking out a little bit. And then they will help right you again and sort of gently push you forward again. And you do the same for them. You have somewhere to celebrate, somewhere to commiserate, somewhere to when you're feeling scared, then to move forward again. I mean, being in a mastermind has been a huge contribution for me in that area, because I'm with those like-minded women who are of a similar age, who are, building and growing their businesses over time, and we're there for each other, and that I think is huge. I mean, here I am sitting in my little
Yes.
podcasting studio all alone, and even when you and I have finished talking, I'll go back to my office just by myself. So it's so
true.
important.
We spend so much time alone that I agree with you. I'm in a mastermind too, and it's made a huge impact on my confidence level and my knowing that I get to talk it through with a group of people who are paying attention to my journey, and they give me an amazing new perspective every time. You get into your brain and you start telling yourself this story, and having somebody who's been watching your journey, they can just kind of turn it around and show you a new way to look at things. It's so valuable.
Yeah, I totally agree. So as you're listening, lovely ladies, the idea of finding yourself a business buddy, finding yourself a belief buddy, you can also obviously have a look at a mastermind. Masterminds are something that's an integral part of my business, and you can go and check that out. You just go to angelaraspas.com/circle and you'll find out all the details about my masterminds. But as Kristen and I have said, they're huge parts of our own buoyancy in business, so definitely something worth looking at. Well, Madone, where do we find you online? Share where you are easiest to be found so we can come and get more of this goodness you've been sharing today.
You can find me at pilateshomepractice.com. And I have a quick posture video freebie if you're interested in kind of a quick way of how I do like building blocks up through the body from the feet to the knees to the pelvis, just like I was talking about the pelvis in a seated position, how to have a little bit more awareness of how you hold yourself in a standing posture. That's my little freebie course. And then I have a course, Pilates for Your Life. And if you go to my website, you can click on videos, courses. It says on the top courses, and you'll find Pilates for Your Life there. So it's Pilates, Pilates, homepractice.com.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure that we pop links through to your website on the show notes for this podcast interview as well. Well, that was wonderful. Thank you so much again for spending your time with us today and for giving us all of that insight. And let's just keep blooming forward as you start spreading that message further, because I know that I'm not going to be looking at my desk and the way I sit at it in quite the same way again. I'm going to be doing those pelvic forwards and backwards with my bowl of water, which is in the and start exploring some more of those. I'm certainly going to go and have a look at those videos on your site, because I am really, really conscious that I want these next chapters that I'm moving into not just to be emotionally and mentally fulfilling, but I want them to be physically fulfilling as well.
Yeah.
I want to be able to move through the world with grace and with ease, and I want to be able to damn well go kayaking if somebody asks me to. And
absolutely.
I probably wouldn't just right now. So definitely some changes, some gentle changes that need to be made. So
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you, Angela. What a pleasure to talk with you. I really, really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. And you, my lovely listener, thank you for spending your time here with the Next Chapter podcast. I know there's many, many things you could be doing right now. Perhaps you are doing them whilst you're listening. I certainly find podcasts are a big accompaniment to my life. I was upstairs cleaning up the kitchen before, had a podcast going. Applying the makeup before, had a podcast going. Going for a walk last week, had a podcast going. Even when I was doing a bit of gardening in the weekend, which, yeah, occasionally I do. But podcasts accompany me through so many parts of my life. So if I could ask you as a listener as one small favor, if you have enjoyed listening to the Next Chapter podcast, then let somebody else know. Forward on the episode or the link from my podcast on my website through to someone else, to another Next Chapter woman who may find it just as beneficial as you have to hear these stories of women who are stepping out there, trying new things, moving in new directions with courage and with enthusiasm. So thank you again for spending your time here today, and we'll be talking again very soon. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Your Next Chapter podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Pop over to angelaraspas.com to subscribe to the show and leave a review. And whilst you're there, you can also enjoy valuable free resources, including show notes and downloads, along with the Next Chapter community, where you can connect with other wholehearted women on the same journey as you. We'd love to welcome and support you as your next chapter unfolds. See you next time.